Cowboys cutting Romo.
Oh,
Celtics trading a top 4 pick for Jimmy Butler.
4 times.
He's normal. It's
Normal
awesome.
guys winning another date with Jeannie Bouchard. Anything is possible. Around the horn. Did you see that? She actually paid up the bet. That was real cute.
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reale.
All right, Kyle LaShaw, hold on your multicolored goatee.
Oh.
Seriously, what's up with that? Ed Werder reporting Tony Romo thinks the Cowboys will release him, not trade him. He thinks he can play 2 to 3 more years in this league. I got to start with you, Tim. Where do you think the Cowboys are with Romo, hearing this?
Well, Ed does a nice job. He was the backup beat writer when I was the beat writer at the Morning News, so he learned from the best. And I think what we're hearing here is what Romo, not saying that Romo is the source, I'm just saying Romo wants to be released. It makes a lot more sense. Anybody in that position, a trade, you can't control where you go. A release, then you hope there's 2 or 3 teams interested, and you see what can be done. As far as Tony thinking he can play 2 or 3 more years, I don't know that I would bet that will happen. I think it's a logical thing for him to think, and the problem for everybody involved, and that's him, the media, any coaches, we don't know what's going to happen. He got hurt so quickly last year, but on a fluke tackle in Seattle that we don't know, is that an anomaly? Is that not likely to happen? Or is every time he gets sacked, he's going to crumble and he's going to miss 6 weeks? And that's the answer other teams are going to have to wrestle with.
And if you had to handicap this right now, what do you see happening over the next 2 or 3 months?
I think he'll be released. It might not be designated till June 1 and all that for the money. I still think Houston makes by far the most sense. I think they have just about everything else, and they obviously have to figure out how they deal with Osweiler's money to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Pablo Torre, will turn to you. When you hear 2 to 3 more years from Romo, is that realistic?
I don't know if it's probable. I think it's realistic, though. I think if you can get 1 year out of him, that's kind of the calculus here. And by the way, that calculus is the same thought process that pretty much anyone who plays fantasy football has gone through. I mean, this is funny about this. This is what's funny about this story is Tony Romo a legit starting quarterback who's not going to get immediately hurt is kind of what we talk about as sports fans. And actually, this is the question in front of all these GMs because the guy has been hurt in 13, in 14, in 15, and in 16. And this is one of those things we know to be a constant. But are you going to get the one good year out of Tony Romo? This is something that we all think about in fantasy football. And if I am the Texans, for instance, I'm absolutely betting that I can get 1 year out of him because that risk-reward in the NFL still tilts towards reward.
All right, Jackie Mack, I saw your face when Pablo was talking about fantasy football and this very, very serious question we have about Tony Romo. What's your response?
Well, my response is, if you have a fantasy football team, why would you ever pick Tony Romo? Because of the exact stats you gave in terms of injury history. And I don't even play fantasy football, and I know that. Now, if I'm a team, I'm absolutely going after Tony Romo because he has the highest upside and because of the other quarterbacks that are available to you out there on the open market. So I'm the Houston Texans. You bet I'm taking him. And I still have Osweiler, I think, because you got him under contract for another year. So he's your insurance. I think he will be released, too, because Jerry Jones clearly is fond of Tony Romo. Tony, this has been very difficult for him if you believe, and I do believe the things that he said about this quarterback. So if you're going to do him a solid, that's what you do. You release him. You don't hold on to him.
Interesting, though. But you think there's a market for him, as you just said. There's not a lot of quarterbacks out there. So why wouldn't it behoove the Cowboys to trade him and get something in return?
Well, it probably would behoove them. But what I'm saying is Jerry Jones, things that behoove the Cowboys aren't always what Jerry Jones does. I think we've seen that time.
Okay. So you're not moved by the behoove. How about you, Woody Page?
Let me try and clean up all of this, including the calculus using the numbers 1, 2, 3. I know that's not calculus.
Nicely done, Woody.
Well, this puts the Denver Broncos into play here. John Elway indicated not long ago that, yes, they would explore the Tony Romo situation if it wasn't about a trade. And the reason why they're not going to trade him, and Tim knows this, is that they They feel like they owe him enough. Jerry Jones treats him like he's his father. The best deals would have to be made with Cleveland or the Jets. He's not going to do that to Tony Romo, so he's going to release him so he can go play and finish his career where he wants to. And if he wants to play 2 or 3 years, he wants to come to the Broncos. They're the best chance. He saw what they did with Peyton Manning and that defense working for John Elway. He could get a 3-year deal. He'd have to renegotiate, go down to about $10 million a year, and they do what they did with Peyton last year. A lot of bonuses. If he got him into the playoffs and won a Super Bowl, he could get back to where he was making last year. So that makes the most sense. Not the Texans. He wants to get out of Texas like everybody else.
I want to get back to Kalishaw here, though, because I'm hearing a lot of this is personal, not business, and Jerry's not going to make a business decision that's the best for the team, but going to make a personal decision. Is that possible, Tim?
Well, no, it's always going to be both with Jerry. The business is, yes, he does have a very personal relationship with Tony, wants to do right by him. That's very true. That's not BS. But he also is a businessman. And to your point about who it behooves to do certain things, trading a guy with a salary cap figure of $24 million doesn't really behoove anyone in Dallas. What it does is mess with your salary cap.
Sure.
So
that's
getting a possible third-round pick
Tim.
doesn't do much for you.
Hey, nothing wrong with doing right by somebody named Tony. We'll move on. Warriors-Kings last night. Draymond versus Boogie. What do you think the odds were of a technical in this game or an ejection? If you took Draymond, you win. Toss to now 10 T's on the season. Pablo, we know this is what Draymond does. But should the Warriors be concerned?
They should be marginally concerned, and we should compartmentalize what's happened to Draymond in the last couple of days, because on the court, right, this is his 11th technical, 10 of those count towards the 16 technicals and your suspended limit. That said, those don't carry over into the playoffs. So what you're really hoping is that Draymond is going to be controlled when it gets to the time when you actually truly need to be controlled to avoid what happened to them in the postseason last year. I think that is fairly realistic, even if there is little evidence in the regular season to see that. I'm still willing to believe that Draymond knows that there's a difference between the regular season and the postseason. The other stuff about talking about slave owners and owners, look, that's its own issue, and that's unrelated to this. What I would say about that really quickly is there is a book by Bill Rhoden called $40 Million Slaves. I would not use that comparison because it's an exit ramp for people listening to him to go and completely lose what he was actually trying to talk about in terms of that power dynamic. But don't act like he's some sort of wild man out on an island. This is something that is clearly very felt by people who are descendants of slaves who work in sports.
Okay. And on Green, we have 10 technicals. There may have been one rescinded there this season so far, not 11, Pablo. Jackie, how about you?
So I think Draymond Green and his state of mind is the only thing that Golden State has to worry about. Because in my mind, aside from injury, it's the only thing that will stop them from winning a championship. And it did stop them from winning a championship last year, Tony. So when they ask Steve Kerr, are you worried? And he says yes, and he gives that little laugh, he's not kidding. So what do? Steve's always been the bad cop with Draymond Green because somebody has to be. Bob Myers is the good cop. Bob Myers brings in Draymond and says, okay, the numbers are creeping up. Let's try to keep a lid on this. Remember what happened last year. And then now go have a nice break. That's all you got to do.
Woodrow.
Well, to dredge up an old saying, it's just Dre being Dre, like Manny being Manny, that you have to take the good with the bad. And that means if he's going to tweet out or text out one thing, you just have to accept that that's what he's going to do because he is going to be that way. And guess what? They could call him into the office and sit him down and say, we're going to need you in the playoffs. Well, he's going to, again, do what he wants to do, but he is your best overall player when you get down to it. He's the guy who rebounds. He gets the passes out. He's the one who does all the dirty work.
We're still having this debate after all. Every conversation, sorry to interrupt, Woody, about the Warriors, but we get sidetracked on who the best player is.
But let's go back to it, Jackie. You said, he lost the playoffs last year. There's a big difference this year. He can go into being Draymond this year, but they got Kevin Durant that'll pick up the slack in case he goes into some sort of tirade or does something wrong this year.
Is that because Kevin Durant's a better overall player?
I know. I knew this was going to happen, Woody. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're just inviting it when you start ranking your players in the Warriors. Kalishaw, to you.
I just think it's more of a major concern than Pablo and some of the others have said because there's kind of this underlying thought, well, when the playoffs come around, Draymond's smart and he won't play like this. When the playoffs come around, he's going to be more energized, more passionate, probably less under control at times. And the fact that this did happen last year, and he knows it, and he's blamed himself for losing the finals, and yet he hasn't changed his way at all in the regular season, I think that's got to be a huge concern for this team.
Pablo after the horn.
I will point out that after Draymond was tossed, they outscored the other team 42-15. So, look, there is a cushion here that is somewhat different.
Correlation, causation
They're pretty
there,
good.
Pablo. I mean, maybe they were just better than the Kings, perhaps.
Also
Warriors.
possible.
Yeah, they weren't
And they
playing
have Durant.
Cleveland when that happened. Yeah.
We've been horn. We'll move on. Jimmy Butler to the Celtics rumors, Jackie. I want you on this. According to Chicago, it would take a Godfather offer. Do we need to explain that to the kids? Forget the kids. You got to learn some way. Boston, they could have the number 1 pick. Certainly going to have like a top 4, top 5 pick because they own Brooklyn's, Jackie. So where do you think the Celtics are with this?
Well, everybody, when they talk about this, they're like, well, the Celtics should do it because, Cleveland's hurting right now. They have all these injuries. And so maybe if they get Jimmy Butler, they'll be better than Cleveland. And I can tell you from being around him, that's not how Danny Ainge thinks. He wants to know, am I going to be better than Golden State? Because that's all he really cares about. He's trying to win a championship for the Celtics. Does Jimmy Butler get them there? I really don't think it does. This number 1 overall pick this year, they're saying, yet again, one of the greatest drafts of, we hear this all the time. But there are a couple of players, Ball, Marcus Fulzel. I'm going to probably butchered his name. I apologize if I did. Those 2 guys are the ones. So if you end up in 4, and the Celtics have the worst luck in the drafting, everyone will be screaming, you should have had Jimmy Butler. I understand if they don't do it. I'll understand where they're coming from.
Woody, where do you think Boston should be with this?
Well, I think that Jackie's a little too far in the forest to see the trees. That you're saying, oh, they're worried about beating Golden State. Well, they can't beat Golden State with this team and a future number 1 draft choice, can they? You need a player right now to beat the Warriors and to beat the Cavaliers and probably to beat the Toronto Raptors after what they just did. Yes, you go out. I'm one of those people, Jackie. You go out and get Jimmy Butler. Guy's 27 years old. He's the best player in the Bulls. He's one of the best players in the league. He has got to help you. You don't know what's going to come down the line next year. It could be one of those guys like Philadelphia that ended up hurt for 2 years. I mean, really, you want to act for now. You want to be the old Celtics. You want to be in the mix. You want to have a chance to be in the conference finals and to be there. And Butler can do it for you. He can get you over the top. That draft choice is not going to do it.
Tim Kalishaw.
Jackie's argument made a lot of sense, but I'm going to go with Woody, strangely enough. I think this is a time where you do kind of swing for the fences and say we're close. Yeah, there's something to be said for waiting 2 or 3 years, until Isaiah Thomas' contract's redone and you've stockpiled and used all these picks that you have, and Cleveland and Golden State are going down a little. But there's also something to be said for being good now, and they're very good now, and they need another scorer, and Jimmy Butler would make a huge difference on that team. And even if you lose that high pick this year, you've got another potentially high pick next year. They're still in great shape organizationally.
Woody was mentioning how they want to be like the old Celtics. Jackie raises an important point here. The old Celtics only cared about banners. Like, the Celtics right now, they don't care if they make the Eastern Conference Finals or even NBA Finals. All they got to worry about is it realistic to beat Kevin Durant right now and the Warriors? And the answer to that with Jimmy Butler is absolutely not.
Isn't the answer for every team in basketball except the Cavaliers that as well? I mean, at some point you have to play the season that's in front of you, right, Jackie?
Right, and here's the thing, Tim. If you might be able to trade for Jimmy Butler if you're patient enough with next year's 2018 pick, which is unprotected again, and Brooklyn's going to be bad again. They're not going to be good for a while. So maybe they give in and take that.
All right, we've been horn. We're taking a break right here. Looks like McMullen, Page, and Kalishaw in today's show. Pablo also appearing. Stick around.
Calculus.
The calculus, not in your side today, Pablo.
Buy or sell.
Melo to replace Love. We go to Phoenix Sun Jared Dudley for his All-Star Game analysis. Hello over Bradley Beal? SMH. Definition of politics. Hey, man, stick to sports. Woody, buy or sell Jared Dudley?
I'm buying him. I think it was a charity pick after what's all gone on this year with the Knicks, particularly in the last couple of weeks, that he was doing it because he's been there and they're going to just repeat it. But Beal is having an incredible year. He deserves it over Carmelo.
Al Shaw?
Got to buy it, too. Better percentages all around. A better story this year than Carmelo. Plays for a team that's made a great run. Beal should be in there for sure.
Torre?
I am someone who values entertainment in my All-Star games over meritocracy almost, and I don't have a problem with it from that perspective. But if you disagree with me, and I think Adam Silver may disagree with me publicly, it does seem like a totally hypocritical move, of course.
A lot of words
Beal,
there.
yes,
I don't even know
Beal
which way
should
you're
be the
buying
guy.
or selling anymore. McMullen, how about you?
I think Bradley Beal's more entertaining than Carmelo Anthony right now. Do you see what happens when he hits those threes and he marches up the court? He's been shooting like 55% from the floor, 45% from three-point line over the last 10 games. And his team is moving up the standings, and Melo's is moving down. Come on, people. They got this wrong.
Buy or sell two, Gustav Nyquist, 6-game suspension for a high stick on... Who is that, Timmy?
The Spurgeon General. Thank
Yes,
you.
it is.
Oh.
Tim, Jared Spurgeon. We finally reward him for the Spurgeon General. Nyquist was offered a face-to-face hearing with the NHL. He declined. Boom, 6 games. Tim, buy or sell 6 for that.
Sell this, even if it wasn't the General. I mean, they even say in their explanation it should be 10 games. They even say in their explanation this isn't a case where you lose control of your stick and you're trying to do one thing. This is a guy who looks at another player and puts his stick as close to his eye as he can possibly get it. The fact that he didn't do eye damage, that's the only reason. He's only getting 6 games. I think it's terrible.
Boy.
No, I agree with Tim. I think you can be for fighting as a concept in hockey. You can be for these guys being tough and still be against this. This is using your stick in the direction of your eyeballs, of your skull, which we think hopefully should be able to be differentiated from just being tough.
Mullen?
Yeah, retaliation has been part of hockey from the beginning of the game sport. But what that means is you drop your gloves and you go at it and you punch the guy in the face. You don't use your stick. We're very, very lucky there wasn't a more serious injury caused here. So I'm selling this all the way. It should have been 20 games, Tim, not 10. 20.
Paige.
I'm buying that there should be a 10-run rule here on the show. If you're 10 points behind, you shouldn't participate in buy or sell. I am selling this, and it should be at least 15 games. It was minutes. If you touch a referee, it's 10 games. I mean, he almost put a guy's face into left field. I think it was not enough punishment.
Right, we did, Vermette, 2 nights ago with contact with the referee and how that's 10 games automatically, no matter, and that's much lighter than what we saw last night. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3. The Cubs moving their bullpens under the Wrigley bleachers with peepholes for relievers to watch the game and out from the first and third base lines so they can put more seats in at Wrigley during this new renovation. Pablo, buy or sell that move?
I'm going to sell it unless the fans who sit in those bleachers can stomp their feet and kind of spill liquid they may have and let that drip, let that trickle down onto the bullpens below, because baseball teams should know their sport is unique. You can build advantages within your buildings. If you don't take advantage of that, what an enormous waste.
So you're saying for the opposing bullpen, you want noise, you want
of
spillage.
course. Yes.
Okay. McMullen, how about you?
I just want to check, Pablo. You were proposing that you could throw beer and dribble beer on opposing players, and that's
Trickle
like the
down,
reason not to
Jackie.
move.
It's only a
Trickle down economics from Pablo, yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm selling it all. Listen, that Wrigley has the same problem that Fenway has. Everybody says, we got to keep it the same. We want it to be. But the people there have to make money. They've got to find a way to invent seats. This is one of the ways. I don't like it, but I understand exactly why they're doing it, and so does Theo Epstein.
Woodrow?
They shouldn't have done the things they did with Fenway Park. They shouldn't. This was a tradition. It's why Wrigley Field is Wrigley Field. Little techniques like that. What's happened is they turned the friendly confines into the unfriendly beehives because that's the people making the decision.
All right. Okay, fine. A point for your effort. How about you,
That's a point. That's a point.
I mean, he
Spurgeon
tried.
General originally didn't get points. That gets a point. I'm going to buy this. I think you have to do it. And I'm going to sell Joe Madden or anybody with the Cubs suggesting they ever had a home field advantage because of people heckling the visiting relievers. How long was that drought before last year? 108 years? How was that drought?
That might be the best
advantage
point.
working?
That is the best point, Callis. You're going to finish with a very solid score of 37 for you. Your age, which is interesting. You know, you get the number.
Oddly enough.
Torrey, a little too much calculus, not enough new math today. And McMullen also done. Page, Callis done. Showdown next.
Hi, this is Maury Moreland Morrison, here to tell you Geico has more than just great savings. Much more. Yes, while Geico could help you rack up more moolah faster than you can say metamorphosis, they've also been the fastest growing auto insurer for more than 10 years. That's more like it. Furthermore, Geico has fast and friendly claim service. That might seem like an oxymoron, but it's not. All the more reason to say no other auto insurer has more than Geico. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Paige, Kalishaw, OHL, Otters and Knights. Check out what happens here. Stick knocked away. Doopy-doopy-doo. Let me just pick up this stick right here, which belongs to my opponent, and score a goal on my opponent with their own stick. Woodrow, fair or foul?
This is fair for Dylan. Don't think twice. It's all right. You're knocking on the goalie's door, and just remember, it's blowing in the wind. You're going to win.
I'm not even thinking about going that direction. I've seen sticks on ice many times. I've never seen them used that wisely. I like the fact they exchanged them pleasantly afterwards. Great play by the Erie Otter.
Yes, the Erie Otter, whose name is Dylan Strome, which Woody assumed everyone on planet Earth knew as he went into his long list of Dylan references. Point, Kalishaw. Buy or sell two, a Tom Brady movie is coming from some of the people who did The Fighter. How do you like me now? And The Finest Hours, which came out last year. Question here is, Tim, who plays Tom Brady?
It's a tough call. A lot of good choices out there. Give me Army Hammer. I'll put one of the Winklevosses out there. I'm never sure. Are there two Army Hammers? I think there's just one. Looks a little like very athletic.
I put a poll on Twitter, Tim, and it came back that Mark Wahlberg was number one, even though he's left-handed. Anybody named Philip Ryan, and third, the winner was Bob Ryan. Why not Bob Ryan as Tom Brady?
Okay, I've got Chris Pratt for the Combine when he's a little bit, and then Chris Pine maybe for the rest of the movie, and I've got Peter Dinklage as Bill Belichick, and I've got Kalishaw as the winner of today's show. Yeah. Let's go around the horn.
A lot of blood on the tracks left in that showdown, but let me just say this. For several of my FaceTimes over the next 10 days, I'd like to do a series on some of the changes in NASCAR related to the Daytona 500, just 10 days away. Let's talk about cars that crash. That happens a lot there. In the past, we see them drive back to the garage and get repaired. You can't do that anymore. You got to fix them on pit row, and you got 5 minutes, and if you can't do it, boom, you're out of the race. There you go.
You see right there, it's win number 414 for Kalishaw. More importantly, appearance 1,550. Second all time.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
It's a common expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. However, what if the horse's mouth is filled with useful insurance tools? This is the exact case with the Geico app. Yes, the app is free and therefore a gift horse. However, look inside the app and behold, emergency roadside assistance, digital ID cards, bill pay. Get the Geico app. Look it in the mouth. Get amazing services. Thank you.